I've been thinking about something a lot lately, which is a lot of my friends and acquaintances always ask me why I go so hard, why I'm pushing so hard. Because I'm very fortunate at this point in my life that I've put some wins on the board. I've achieved a couple of things. It always reminds me how surprised I am when people ask me this question. It reminds me how many people genuinely believe that financial status is the North Star. Their question is almost always baked in the framework of how much money I've acquired or have. And I always ponder that. It's always so interesting to me how the data, the math, is black and white on this issue. There is absolutely no correlation to one's wealth that maps their happiness. This is black and white. We continue to have a world that is confused that money buys happiness. It continues to be what someone who's hurting thinks is the potion or the antidote to fix it. Yet, we have unlimited amounts of hundreds of millions of people who prove otherwise. We must start there. The concept that you're gonna buy your way to happiness is the biggest falsity in human society, and we must stop doing that. Thank you. It was getting a little annoying. This is a message that's extremely challenging for me to be the person who delivers it. Almost always when I say that, 20% of the comments are easy for you to say. That's because most people consume my content today. What my high school friends and college friends and friends in my 20s know is I was arguably happier at 29 making $45,000 a year than I am today. The process of doing something you actually like is my great addiction. The fact that I am able to actually wake up day in and day out, sleep easily for 7-8 hours a night, and wake up genuinely excited while always being prepared to grab my phone and know that I have a problem in my 300-person Singapore office, or something happened in LA, or one of the other 17 businesses that I'm associated with are in trouble. I sit on top of almost 3,000 employees and 2 very large businesses actively as the CEO, and then on the board of 4 others, and heavily invested in others, and many other things I'm involved with, and family, and this and that. I have plenty going on, but the fact that I do what I want to do enables all of it to work. This is grounded in something that is the absolute answer for this entire arena. The one thing I can absolutely speak on that fundamentally touches every person here is the relationship between self-esteem and insecurity. All of the things that you do are based on this. If you look at what's really been going on with people for a very long time, why, when one is sold fear, that they believe it, versus when they're sold fear that they don't? Why so few people have a framework of believing in optimism versus protecting themselves with cynicism? Why people lack patience? I can tell you right now that for the majority of people in this room that want something to happen, the biggest flaw in their mental framework and perspective is their lack of patience. It is why I make so much content around people that are 22, 25, 35, 40, and laughing and joking and trying to some way, somehow communicate to them that they are extremely young How many people here are under 50 years old? Please stand up. Stand up. Stand up. I want everybody looking around. Under 50. First of all, let's clap up for the over 50 crowd that's sitting and respect our elders. Now, love that. Now, for the 90% of you that are standing, there is a substantial chance that you have not even lived half your life. If you are under 40, continue to stand. Please sit, 40 to 50. I'll sit as well. For this crew, given where modern medicine is, there's a dark horse chance that you haven't lived a third of your life. Think about that. There are people sitting here stressed that they fucked it up. They missed their time. They misplayed it. They shouldn't have. And they've got the majority of their life left. That blows my mind. It really does. Every day of my life, that blows my mind. Sit down if you're over 30. 30 and under, continue to stand. For you fuckers, you know, I had this saying I used to do where I would say I would rip my arm off to switch with you because there's so much time, so much opportunity. But now with TikTok and you can clip things, people have really taken that out of context, so I try not to say it as much. But my friends, if you're standing right now, for you even to begin to deploy anxiety against your own self, judge your own self that you have not done, you did not accomplish, you were unable, is completely unacceptable. You have literally the rest of your life in front of you. You have foundation. As a matter of fact, if I actually, with all the depths of my heart, if I was actually able to give you a piece of advice, if I had one, though I think everyone's situation is different, I would try to get you to just enjoy the next 10 years more, not go as hard as you think I would tell you to go, because you have that much time. You have that much time. Most of society's rules and traditions are based on when people were dying at 50 years old. Most of the rules of when you should get married and what you should do and what you should have accomplished is literally based on the last century's DNA. You are so young. You have every opportunity. Technology is exploding at a speed where your life can change in a minute on a decision. And literally, the only thing that is fucking you up is you worry about what other people think about your life. Whether that's your parents, your friends, me. Please stop doing that. Wear crazy rose suits. I like it, it's very nice. Do random shit, try new things. You have your whole life in front of you. I couldn't be happier for you if you're standing right now. You have 100 years to live. That's actually how it's gonna work out for you, and you need to start acting like it.
Luck plays a role in everything if you're willing to go there. So for example, I was born in the USSR. And communist Russia from 1917 till 1991 basically did not let people leave the country. A lot of people don't know this, but communist USSR was a jail. Unlike Iran, more like North Korea, you were not allowed to leave the country. And so I was born in 1975. In 1971 or two, there was a political event that happened where some Russians tried to hijack a plane and go to Sweden to escape the country. It became a brouhaha internationally, and Russia tweaked its rules and allowed people who were Jewish to go to Israel. And that's how they kind of like calmed the geopolitical storm. I am Jewish. I was born in 1975, and in 1978, we won a lotto that a couple 100,000 people won, and was able to leave the Soviet Union, and I grew up in America as an entrepreneur. I would argue that my entire life is luck in that scenario, because otherwise I would have, had I not been Jewish or had that situation not happened, I would have probably come to America maybe when the Berlin Wall fell in 1991, and I would be a totally different human being. So that is luck. Me working hard, staying curious, staying up late at night and not playing video games, but reading the internet, finding out about social media, flying to London to go to Future of Web Apps to learn, going to South by Southwest to Texas to learn, putting myself in a position to meet the companies that I personally thought were good, Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr, putting in the hours, providing value to those people so that I became a friend, not just somebody who was hanging around, thinking, working, trying. Feels less luck. But when people use luck or talk about timing and things of that nature, of course, I could have been born in the 20s. My parents could have never met, and I've never been a human being. Everybody is lucky and nobody is lucky. It just depends on deciding what you want to say and do. But as far as like the strategy, I feel incredibly comfortable in saying, saving my money in my 20s and then deciding to spend all of it in a 1-year period on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, based on, at that point, 10 years of very hard work, diligence, of saving and not wasting my money and looking for the opportunity to strike, doesn't feel as oriented towards luck as it does towards being thoughtful with the gifts I was given, which could be luck, and this is the point of it all. The most difficult lesson was when me and my dad started to have friction in my late 20s, early 30s. From 22 to 29, I didn't even question why my dad wasn't paying me much, even though I blew up his business. I didn't question why my dad wasn't interested in giving me some equity, even though I blew up his business. And just for everybody who's listening who doesn't know anything about my story, my dad had a business doing 3.8 million in revenue, and in a 7-year window, I took it to 60 million. And I changed the course of my father's financial life and my mother's financial life, yet I was never getting paid $100,000 a year and owned nothing. And I was the operator. And so when I kind of got to like an age where I felt like I was growing up and thinking about like, maybe I should buy a house or an apartment. Maybe, because I was blindly like, I'm gonna help my parents. So when I started asking questions, the answers were not of the kind that I was hoping for.
How did you take that? When it's your
I took it very poorly. It was very difficult. You sit there and you're like, the reason I was willing to do what I did was because my father built the base. But I was sitting there and said, I've been bleeding 7 days a week the last 8 years. The math is the math. This is how much it did before I took over. Look what's happened. Everything's different. Everyone's life is better. My brother's life is better. My sister's life is better. My parents' life is better. My life is fine, but I'm definitely not getting my fair shake. I assumed the conversation was gonna be really easy. Aren't I the 50-50 partner at least? I'm more than 20x the company. And the answers were no. The answers were, you'll get it when I die. I'm like, well, you've got good genes and you're only 22 years older than me. I'm not sure I want to inherit this business when I'm 70. And it was a challenge. Now, I was empathetic, which helps. I could understand where my father was coming from. He was in immigrant land, not in startup land. not in America land. He was old country. He was like, it's the family business, and when the dad dies, the son takes over, the daughter, and so I understood, but it was very, very challenging. Not to mention that he was in charge of building the new store. He was the general contractor of this new store, which was 2 years behind and 5 times over budget. So on top of everything else, I'm frustrated with him because I don't think he's delivering the promise that I'm delivering. And that's putting a lot of pressure on me. When you're going over budget that much and you're trying to pay for shit, you're scared. So it was a very trying time that I don't talk about often, and I'm only doing this because I feel like you put in so many hours that I feel compelled. Plus I don't do it because I don't want to paint the wrong picture. My dad's the best. It was just what it was. And so those were long nights. That was the first time. And what I learned from it was what I preach, which is fuck money. Business doesn't mean shit. Your family, life, happiness, and I am proud to say I was the bigger man, that I feel like I had plenty of opportunities to turn it into a much more contentious, negative situation. And instead what I did was I built infrastructure around myself, made myself capable of moving on at some point without detrimenting the business. My father also would tell you if he was on, he'd be like, cool, that's Gary's problem. Let me tell you what my problem was. I came to America and had nothing. I built this business. Yes, my son came and crushed it. But yes, I was maybe winning financially more than he was, but I had lost my identity. I went from being Sasha, the man at Shoppers Discount Liquors and Wine Library, to the people I've been doing business with for 20 years, wouldn't even return my call because everyone knew Gary was running shit and Gary was the guy. My dad's only 22 years older than me. So when I'm the man at 24, and I was, my dad was 46. To remind everybody listening, I'm 46 right now. So my 46-year-old father, who's an alpha, who's prideful as they come, is now walking around, and he would always use this Russian term, and it would translate to a senator with an empty briefcase. And what that meant in Russia talk was, in that briefcase was cash to get shit done. He was a senator, yeah, he owns it, but he has an empty briefcase and nobody's fucking talking to him. And it killed him inside. So luckily for us, which is why I can talk about it openly, there was a moment there where I think he wanted to be the man again, and I needed to build something for myself. My brother was 11 years younger, coming out of school, and 2009 just kind of really worked out. And at 34 years old, I started VaynerMedia with no money. We started the company in Buddy Media's conference room, which I'm sure you know because you've listened to a lot of interviews. And I'm very proud of what we've built from zero and scratch with no cash. The reason you see that is that when I stay in the arena of business, there is something pretty crazy. I am a little scared. Thank God Kobe Bryant and some of the, I don't want to bring up Jordan and Tom Brady because I hate them so much as Jets and Knicks fans, but thank God there's some of these athletes out there that I can look at and be like, that. Like when I tell you, for anybody who loves Kobe Bryant, I think there's a pretty good understanding, including a documentary I saw this week that talked about when he was, it was actually a book I read, which is rare for me, but I read a book about the 90 Knicks, the 90s era New York Knicks, and there's a little piece they talk about Kobe coming in working out, and they talked about him being 17, 18 and feeling like he was 48 with no doubt. And that's who I've been as an entrepreneur, no question. To answer your question directly, I have many parts of my life where I have doubt. I had a lot of doubt as like a teenager and in my 20s around like asking girls out. My confidence level in like girlfriend, boyfriend, like school stuff wasn't at the same level as business. This one's a wild one. I have incredible fear of reading out loud because I'm terrible at reading. Literally at the Passover table, reading passages frightens me amongst my family, but I can go give an improv keynote to 7 billion people on earth right now if there was a stage for the entire world. Literally if tomorrow they're like, there's this new stage and it's simulcast to every person on earth and you can submit for slots and you get to give a 15-minute keynote to the world. I would literally submit for a keynote immediately. If I had to do it right now, Harry, if you were like, actually Gary, I'm a genie from the future and I can do that if I snap my fingers, you will have to be on stage right now and every person on earth is listening to you talk, I would do it right now. Yet, reading a children's book to you and Andrew right now in my office would scare me. So So I have insecurities, I'm a human being, but I have none when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm really not scared.
Has that ever got you in trouble? It's got me in trouble when I've not.
It hasn't gotten me in trouble because my lack of fear is also balanced with extraordinary levels of empathy and compassion to the other parties involved in my behaviors.
You know,
right? The reason I was such a class clown and disruptor in class, but adored by my teachers, was I knew how to walk the fine line of not disrespecting them while still doing my shenanigans.
My question to you, you talk a lot about the work ethic. I know you're very intentional with everything you do. So with the vacation, what are you looking to get out of that? What are you looking to do? What's your game plan as you go into vacation?
You know, I think that I think you're taking out in context to like some comment I probably made in the last couple of weeks, which is like, I struggle with the relaxing part of it, but my net.
Yeah, specifically,
go ahead.
You were talking on Medium, and my wife had found this because I think she believes it to be true of me as well. She said, look at this post from Gary Vaynerchuk on Medium. He's talking about when he goes to AJ's to watch a NFL draft party. He doesn't enjoy the being there as much as he does the looking forward to that. And I feel like that's how you feel about vacation.
I'm sorry.
Really interesting.
Oh, so let's play that out. You're talking about anticipation, which is basically all I've got. I think the reason I'm winning is because I love the journey and the anticipation more than the destination. Like, by the way, I've already made a video that says buying the New York Jets is the worst day of my life. Because that's the ultimate destination game I'm playing, right?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
I know what you're referring to. Yeah, when I land at vacation, I get sad because it was the week leading up to vacation because I love the time with my family and I love having that break. Like, I'm already looking forward to, right now, I'm already looking forward to the last 2 weeks of August, those 2 weeks in December when I especially like vacation when the whole world is shut down because then I don't feel like anybody's getting ahead of me, you know? So I like that. So yeah, I love anticipation. I love the thrill of the hunt. Even back to being in 5th grade, I tried to get girls to like me, but then I was still scared of them because I was too young. Like, I didn't know what to do at that point, but it was the chase that was fun, not the actual hooking up or having a girlfriend. Like, this has been tried and true for me my entire life. For example, I'm excited about Vayner Sports right now so much because everybody's underestimating our agency. I'm not gonna like it as much in 4 years when Vayner Sports is one of the top sports agencies. Wine Library, those days when I'm a cobra in the weeds. It's why I like negative comments on my social platforms. I like when people.
You want to be able to prove somebody wrong. And
correct.
Prove that you can't do the next thing.
Yes. I love sticking it to your fucking mouth, and I like waiting for things. I don't like instant gratification.
Yep. So for me personally, looking forward to this vacation here, when you are talking about taking time off intentionally as part of a rhythm,
yes.
What do you do to get the most value out of that time away? I know I saw you lock the phone in the safe.
Yes.
and we don't see anything else that happens, obviously, and that's the point. But what does that look like?
It's just focusing on, I'm very good at, one of the things that I get a lot of compliments for lately that I never realized is I'm in it when I'm in it. People always talk about like, whoa, it's so weird on Garyvee when you meet somebody, you look them dead in the eye and you care and this and that. And I've noticed that is something that I needed the outside world to tell me. So when I go into the vacation, I know why I'm there and I want to be there and I lock into either relaxing or focusing on family time, the end. How you do forever is variable difference. Like, hey, I want to be a great basketball player. We'll practice every day. But if you're not practicing efficiently or smartly, you can only maximize your talent so much, and you only have so many talents. Like, you could say to somebody, play basketball every day, there's a very good chance that that person isn't built to be a professional basketball player. I think people really struggle with understanding the difference between maximizing their upside against the delusion of their ambition. Right? Like, you like that one, Kate? That's good, right? Like, when people are like, Gary, when 29-year-olds come up to me, they're like, Gary, I'm gonna be like you as an entrepreneur, and I get 3 seconds of context before the 3rd second's done, I say to myself, unlikely, not because I'm being egotistical or competitive, it's that by the time I was 29, I did business 24 hours a day, every day, for 24 years. For real, actually, right? Like this store, like when everyone's like, Gary, I've been doing this for a year. I'm like, I did a year's worth of Wine Library TV after I was 30, 15 years of wine education and selling to just get to a minimum base of getting 30 comments per, like people are so delusional of what it takes to succeed. And so, yes, of course it's that. But the question becomes, getting a discount from the website is not interesting if you don't want anything from the website, right? And so the question becomes, how can someone get it done? What gets people to care? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it is that. I always believe it's content creation. Content creation is storytelling, it's awareness, it's how you connect. But obviously some people are better at storytelling than others. The question for everybody that's trying to do their own shit is, are you realistic with your capability, and are you happy about that? That doesn't mean don't believe in yourself and don't cap out, but I think where people really get hurt, genuinely get hurt, is they have expectations that are so unrealistic that it makes them deviate from the enjoyment of why they're doing it. And I'm always scared to be compared to when it's in business. Being compared to in playing pickleball, I feel good about. Many of you can be better. Being compared to in a million things, I feel comfortable. I get very uncomfortable when people want to compare themselves to me in entrepreneurship because I've been doing it for so long and I'm really, really, really good at it. Like I think that we all have to be self-aware. And I think being self-aware and realistic while pushing the ambition and committing to a decade worth of ungodly amounts of work if you want something special without even thinking about how far along am I is not something most people are comfortable with. Like for anyone who's starting at dead scratch and has nobody give a fuck about anything, Alien Inc. 10 years, 15 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day minimum, 10 years, don't even look up to see how you're doing is not something people want to sign up for.
One thing I'll say is I'm already happy that I even got my friend to do it at the concert. I'm happy people are seeing it here. So I may not beat you as an entrepreneur, but I may go hand in hand on the happiness because I'm happy as fuck.
Well, that is the best. That's the best.
I'm happy that I
That makes me emotional in the best way. That is the purpose of every way I'm trying to communicate, which is unless you are completely upset, for me, the happiness part is the only part. I was happy as fuck in this store down there in 2001 where nobody in the world knew who the fuck I was. I was as happy 21 years ago in this building, and it wasn't even this building, this was built later. It was a little building down there facing that street right down there 21 years ago as I am this exact second. Not a dollar, not a fan, not a nothing. Nothing that has happened to me publicly in the last 20 years has added a single ounce of happiness. The process is my happiness. And there's no way to get to a great place without it. You'll just burn out.
The two kind of conflicts that I have is A, that takes away from, because I work with clients. Like,
right, it takes time.
Becomes my schedule.
Yeah.
Like, no matter when they want to see me, that's when they see me.
Yes.
And I'm always going to be, mercy to that. But I have so many other things that I think I'm pretty good at. You don't. I tried to do them all.
Hold on. There's something really important there, which is you're not always going to be at the mercy of that if you're willing to not make that maximize its economics, or if you're so damn good, people will compromise into yours. Meaning, if you decide that you only work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 a.m. to noon, only, so that you can really do your other shit, well then you could, and if you're so great, you might lose Harold and Susan, but Timmy and Sally are right behind them and you fill those slots and you call it a day. People get confused because they think everything is so extreme one or the other. And they don't realize they can create restrictions within the middle. Meaning, I just gave you the black and white way that you can control a lot more of your time as a personal trainer. You just have trainer hours. You're scared properly, not scared. You're thinking properly. I don't want to lose these two people. Yeah. But the reality is if you make those restrictions, if you create enough of the content or demand in another way, somebody will take up those slots, and now you're 6 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You could just I've watched a lot of trainers be scared shitless for that jump. And a lot of times when I talk to them, whether they're friends, acquaintances, or just random DMs I've sent, not only do I tell a lot of them the advice of doing that if they have this want, I also tell them to raise their costs in the same time. And the reality is there's a lot of demand for personal trainers. And so all of a sudden you wake up and you're more in control of your schedule and you're making 20% more per hour against that schedule, and now you're fucking rolling. I think that you are more thoughtful. Every generation is more thoughtful than the prior one because you have the luxury of the data, right? You got to, we got to watch the people who grew up in the 60s and 70s, and you got to watch the people who grew up in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And there's more options, there's more information. You guys have no idea. I lived my entire childhood up until I was 19 years old without the internet. Think about that. So in the 80s, finding a new job was looking in the classifieds in a newspaper. Recruiters couldn't email you or hit you up on LinkedIn. You have more options. And with more options comes better decisions. And more thoughtful conversations. People are becoming more thoughtful. When I was growing up, to your point, make as much money as possible so you can get a house and a car and a vacation. And now people are more minimalists, value other things, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But I think it needs to be personal. I think a lot of kids struggle with being very ambitious. There's some kids that hit me up and say like, hey, I feel out of place with my Gen Zers. I do want to work 15 hours a day. I do want to build an empire. I'm like, that's good too. I go so hard, but when I say work hard, I don't say work hard and burn out. People are making assumptions out here. They took a word I used to love called hustle, which meant work hard, like it matters. And we've manipulated it into this world of like, oh, if you do that, you're doing drugs and alcohol and have mental health issues. That's crazy. I'm the most chill, calm person on earth. I'm so content and happy. I'm chill as fuck. I sleep 7, 8, 9 hours a day. I'm calm as a cucumber. That's because I'm in my zone, and my zone is to be a fucking entrepreneur operator. For people that aren't, they shouldn't, because it's fucking anxious. You know, like if I was my admin, my incredible admins, I'd be anxious. I don't like getting everything right and making sure everything's running on time. I'd be fired in project management within a week at VaynerMedia. A week. Or maybe I would quit in 48 hours. So I think yes, no question, but I think it's because we're trying to be more self-aware. What we have to be careful of is what I'm also seeing, which is amazing, all that. The one thing to watch out for is entitlement. The one thing that I see creeping as a cousin to a lot of this thoughtfulness with a lot of youngsters is staggering levels of entitlement. Like, I should be the vice president of the company. I'm like, you've been here 3 weeks. And so the over-coddling and delusional positive reinforcement of modern parenting has confused a lot of people. And that's one thing, that's a watch out. And by the way, I hate when people are like, all Gen Z, all millennials. No, 80% of you I don't see it in, but 20% is a lot, because it used to be 1%. Like everybody in the 80s and 90s were like, I'm gonna give coffee to my boss for 5 years, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do that. Now kids are rolling in at 20 and being like, yo.
Has there ever been a time in your life where you felt down and out, pressure on all sides, and how did you overcome that moment?
I think my toughest times were, in school, when you're 12 years old and 13 years old and every teacher you have tells you that you're gonna be a loser and a garbage man. I don't know, I feel bad. Like, I was so pissed that they would always shit on garbage men. And like, I feel like that's such a hard, like a job I respect so much, but that was the hot thing in the 80s. You're gonna be a garbage man. I was like, oh fuck. I was actually kind of pumped. I'm like, oh shit, I can get stuff for free instead of the garage sales and flip it, but that was hard. It was hard. I think that's why I'm unstoppable now, because at 11, 12, 13, 14, every grown-up I knew, teachers and my friends' parents, every grown-up I knew told me I was gonna be a loser, while my mother told me I wasn't, and the world told me I wasn't. I was selling lemonade, shoveling snow, selling baseball cards, flipping stuff at garage sales, and I was great at it. The market told me I was great. My mom told me I was great because I was a nice person. And here I am 46 years later, a nice gangster businessman. But it was hard. And actually, I've never said this before, it just hit me, and built a personal brand because I can deal with people shitting on me because they've been shitting on me. Of course you can't be of course people struggle putting themselves out there. They grew up as A and B students and like haven't had that emotional adversity yet.
What would you tell your 25-year-old self, knowing everything you know now?
That I would tell him, hey kid, you've got 90% of this figured out, but all the pain and discomfort and missteps that you're about to have over the next 21 years are gonna be because you aren't good at candor. That your lack of candor is going to lead to a lot of people loving you at all times because you're making everything so awesome, but you're gonna build resentment, and that's gonna manifest in personal relationship vulnerabilities. And it's definitely gonna manifest in your passion to be a businessman, because you're not gonna be able to give people critical feedback. And then you're gonna surprise them when you fire them. And then instead of you being the good guy where you gave good feedback and unfortunately it didn't work, but you were gracious and you still did the good severance and you were a good person and you're good, now you're gonna be a bad guy to some of these people. Because on Thursday you said, hey, Javi, keep crushing it. And then on Monday, you walk in and be like, Javi, this is your last day. And he's gonna be like, what the fuck? You said last Thursday, everything was rolling. My obsession for happiness and like good skewed too far, and I didn't have the balance of candor. It's why kind candor was invented. It's why it's foundational here. And let there be no confusion to everybody here. The establishment of kind candor has helped our company quite a bit over the last 2-3 years. A lot. It has really helped us. And it's really helped me personally, you know? And so that's what I would tell him, my friend.
Thank you.
Grace?
Hi, Gary. Thanks for talking to us.
Of course.
If you had to distill the role of the PCS into one function, what would it be?
Knowing everything that's going on in culture at this exact second. I'm obsessed, Grace, with the PCS. I would argue the PCS at its core is the thing that's closest to me, who I am. It's scary how much shit I know. And it's by being super wide and then being strategic when I go deep and everything in between, right? Like, it's, you know, it's knowing why slime was hot with 9-year-old girls for 24 months. It's knowing why Polo G could be the next Drake, but with a little more hood. It's why knowing that why Facebook written words are working on fan page. It's like fucking just knowing. You know what I mean? Curiosity at scale, grinding at scale, not imposing your own opinions on shit at scale, which is impossible in this highly charged political climate. It's being like a neutral vessel of curiosity. And then having the talent to convert signals into hypotheses. I don't know if you guys know this. This is actually wild. I've done a very bad job branding this, which is unusual for me because I'm pretty good at personal branding. I was legitimately, no bullshit, one of the first 15 YouTube celebrities. Like in 2006, Wine Library TV, it was like Zay Frank, Rocket Boom, Lonely Girl, Ronetto. Like I knew everybody who had 10,000 subscribers. Think about what I just said to you. So because of that, I've always known that the long form ecosystem had legs, that it wasn't how long the video was, it's how good the video was. I actually got flown to Yahoo and Google because they had Yahoo Video and Google Video before Google bought YouTube. That was their product. And both those companies flew me out to probe me and ask me why people were watching 20 minutes of my videos. And my answer was literally, I have no idea. Because I could, at that point I was a businessman. The thought that I had on camera charisma didn't even cross my mind. Like it wasn't a function of like how I thought. All this notoriety and awareness and micro fame I have now is so funny to me. I didn't do anything public until I was 30, like it wasn't even on the radar. It's not like you guys who grew up knowing normal people could be famous. For me, when I was 15, unlike you, I thought you had to want to be famous and go to Hollywood and wait tables and try to be on television. So here's how. It's the reason VaynerMedia is going to be the biggest agency in the world. What people don't realize is you have to make content that people want to watch. And so the whole Vayner Video 1, Bridge 1 thing that I'm pushing that we haven't really accomplished yet is going to be the whole game. Because people will watch 5-minute and 17-second videos. They're going to be consumed at scale on streaming. What do you think Netflix commercials are going to look like? They're going to be there. And my intuition is people are going to make shitty ones. And my intuition is Vayner is going to make the best ones. And people are going to actually want to watch our shit. Like in between fucking Stranger Things, we're going to make a nostalgic fucking video for fucking Casper, and people are like, what the fuck was that? Because they're not even gonna be sure if it's a commercial part of fucking Stranger Things, or like, we're gonna confuse the shit out of them.
You lost your reputation.
Yeah.
You no longer could use your name to sell anything. You could just be Garyvee with your mindset right now. How fast do you think you could build a successful company, and how would you do it?
Well, that last part made this more interesting. So the fact that it says, even the question gets exciting for me because you said, how fast can you build a successful company? Even that is why I think most people are not winning. I've never thought of anything besides how slow can I build something.
But speed matters now.
I think speed is the poison. Yeah, okay, speed matters. I also think it's why nobody's winning. Speed is the devil.
But so is sitting and analyzing and never doing.
No shit.
Right, so there's an opposite.
That's right.
There's a counter to that.
Do you know why everyone's sitting and analyzing so much? Because they're trying to figure out how to do it fast. Speed's the fucking devil. It was really funny. Obviously, back to jumping in. That was a really fun moment, right? Because I'm saying TikTok, because I think you're gonna go, where do you start? And
that's why I didn't stop.
And I appreciate that. I like how you did it. The reason I went so ham 4 years ago on TikTok was I knew what the fucking question is from everyone. I was like, fuck, this could actually get people going. Because we'd gone through 5 years of mature Facebook and Instagram, and it was like, there was no fast.
Yep.
TikTok was the first thing that I saw that was fast, completely based on the merit of the creative. But the problem is, a lot of the people that got it fast didn't necessarily go into it trying to get it fast. Some of it was on a spoof, on a lark. Some heard me and talked about shit they cared about, and because they cared about it, and they were passionate about Star Trek, and they knew a lot about fucking Spock and Captain Kirk, it hit for the people that also did. So, I think the interesting part of your question, the answer to your question is, if I was exactly me, would be okay, because I've never wanted fast, because I've always sensed, and now I feel very confident that I'm right at 46 years old, that fast is what fucks everyone up, because you go into shortcut land, and that's just real talk. It just is. So I couldn't recommend more people trying to think about things like, okay, and this is why I fuck with the youngsters. For the youngsters, I'm like, listen, when you're 20, if I'm telling you 10 years, when you're 20, you were 10 years old 10 years ago, and I remember being 22 and my cousin Bobby being 30, and I thought my cousin Bobby was the oldest man on earth. So I know how hard it is when I tell them, hey, think of this as a 10-year game. They're like, fuck you, Gary, that feels like forever. The problem is, it's why so many 20-year-olds lose. It's also back to mental health and all that. It's why they're all so anxious. They want fast to show everyone else they want. They don't want fast for any other reason but to flex. And that's really fucking them up. Fast is the devil. The cancer is doing it for other people thinking you made it.
You use some of that towards your fuel. Like you say it all the time where people thought you were a loser because you were the entrepreneur, like growing up. You use that as a chip on your shoulder. Chip
on shoulder is very different. Yes, to your point. Yes, but the problem is when I was growing up and using it as chip on the shoulder, I wanted the merit of success to be it. I never thought anyone on earth would know who I was. In the business community, I literally thought in the liquor business people would know me, and that was my life.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with what these kids want. Almost every kid subconsciously wants fame. It's fucking insane. There's a reason why most actors and actresses, especially child ones, went to rehab. It's fucking hard, back to what we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
I wanted chip on shoulders to like be successful for the game. A lot, which is why I never bought shit. To this day, it's why I don't buy shit. Because I don't want the proxy. I didn't want the Mercedes or BMW or Rolex or house in Short Hills with a pool and a house in the Hamptons. I didn't even know the Hamptons existed until I was 30 years old. I grew up in Jersey my whole life. I knew nothing about the flex. Now, back to chip on shoulder, to your point as motivation, it's the perception of success that all these kids want. They want blue check money, fake chain, the girl, the guy, the photo in Ibiza to make pretend they're successful. That's the most fucking cancerous of it all.
So what's your advice? Before we even get to the advice, how would you do it? So you have no rep, you're not you lost all your followers, you have no contacts, no reputation anymore.
Step
just
one,
your mind.
got you.
How do you build
Step
it?
one, for everybody who's listening who's in this spot, which is almost everyone.
Yep.
You have to be, step one, self-aware of how you're best at creating content. Step one. Are you a writer? Are you audio? Are you video? If you're video, it will always have the most upside. Just the truth of the way the world works. Movie actors are more famous than authors. It's just the way it works. But if not, don't force it. So is it written word, audio, or video? Step two, scalable format. When we cross paths, I said, do a Q&A show. That's scalable, right?
Yep.
To me, I can't produce content. I'm too busy, but I can double bubble. I can do something and put somebody on like I am right now. I can get the content. That's how I feed my machine. So step two becomes, first you're like, what?
And that's how you get podcast number 3.
So how do you A, communicate? B, what's the most scalable thing? Think back to what I did when nobody knew who I was. What's the most scalable thing I can do? Oh, there's a million wines in the world. I'll never review them all. And every day I can wake up and go downstairs because I have a liquor store and grab 3 bottles of wine and review them. So I did it from day one. A scalable thing. I think Q&A, or even if somebody said to me the other day, it was a really fun combo. He's like, I can't do Q&A because nobody knows who I am. I can't even ask anybody to ask me a question. I'm like, do you know anybody? Because I was like, just bring them on. He's like, not really. I said, back to Samai's, I said, great news. Your content should be taking people's questions all over the internet or comments and make content. Look what's going on TikTok.
Yep.
Replying to comments in video form are the most viral shit going. You can go and do that from other people's accounts. You can stitch and duet your way to the Hall of Fame. It's all there if you're willing to go there, but so for me, it would be first, who am I? I would say I'm video. Next, I would go to, how do I bring value? Everyone can bring value. I really believe that. Every person listening right now does have strengths, or at least are enthusiasts or opinionists. A lot of time people want to be an expert before they make pretend they're an expert, which is why they die on impact. All those fakers out there, all those Garyvee fakers that you referenced earlier, because they're not actually marketing experts. That's why they're losing. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
But then you have the people who are good who have imposter syndrome and they don't know how to get over that as well.
Correct.
Right?
That's insecurity, right? Like that. The way to get through insecurity is through sheer will. It's by consuming the negative consumption of your life got you to insecurity. Mom, dad, school, older brother, like could be a million different things. The only way to get into that is the positive reinforcement. The reason I work so well for so many is I'm that positive pusher, and then they go do it and they're like, fuck, I could do this the whole time. You figure out who you are, you talk about what you know or what you like. I'm trying to get a lot more people to think of themselves as enthusiasts instead of experts. You could be a Jets enthusiast. You don't have to know as much as I do about the Jets' pure history. Just talk about liking it, and you're excited about, whatever you're excited. Zach Wilson's this, or Garrett Wilson that, or Robert Saleh this.
It comes back to the posting of the content again of Gary could talk about whatever he wants because he has that attention. Well, I go on and say, I enjoyed the Jets game today.
But
who cares?
That's such a losing mentality, and I'll tell you why. On that theory, it completely takes out of account that Logan Paul and Charlie D'Amelio and Gary Vaynerchuk had 0 followers when they posted the first time. Because that's the truth. Because I know both of those 2 careers, so I'll use them as much bigger audiences than me, playing in that youth culture. Like, I don't understand that mentality at all. You need to figure out a sustainable model to produce content. Let me talk to you about something I call underpriced attention. For the last 15 years, I've built my entire career on underpriced attention. Whatever the attention of the world was on that most people didn't understand that the world was on it yet is where I produced the most content and went the hardest. I know a lot of you had all sorts of feelings when I was pushing Musical.ly and TikTok 6 years ago. That was gonna be the one that I was gonna be wrong about. What you have to pay attention to is where are people actually consuming, and don't make up excuses like, well, Gary, my customers aren't on TikTok. Because that's what you all did 24 months ago, and now all your customers are on TikTok, right? So what we need to talk about is underpriced attention. Why was I doing email in 1997 for my dad's wine shop? Because I had 93% open rates. That's a long time ago. That newsletter now gets 18% open rates. Why was I doing Facebook fan pages like Ham in 2012 and 13? For the people that were doing it here, you know why. And then Instagram, and then this. So it's always moving. Let me give you, straight from the horse's mouth, where the underpriced attention sits right now. Number 1, this is wild, Facebook fan pages. Let me throw a bomb at you. For 3 years, I didn't even think about Facebook. Between big corporations that VaynerMedia works with canceling Facebook because of the politics and the Trump stuff and the Democrat stuff and all the politics, you have big companies like, I don't know if this is exactly true, but companies like BMW and Coca-Cola and all these that used to pour 50 million in have gone to 0. Then, for some of you that definitely are in the trenches with DTC and retargeting, iOS 14.5 fucked up people that really know how to do math, right? So that took away another good $1 trillion of DTC brands that you would go to their website, you wouldn't fill out the shopping cart. You know this, you saw it, they followed you everywhere. You didn't buy the sneakers, you saw the sneaker ad 800 times until you just fucking gave up and bought the sneakers because you didn't want to see the fucking ad anymore. So that money's gone. All of this, I love when everyone's like, Gary, the algorithm fucked me. The algorithm did not fuck you, Sarah. You're just not interesting as you were 6 months ago, or aren't changing, or your audience is changing, or somebody else took. The algorithm is unemotional and just wants money and just wants attention. Nobody's shadow banned here. You just suck now. So what happens is it's all supply and demand. How many people post organically? How many people run ads? How many people are on the other side consuming? Facebook, as I'm sure we all know, is not in the consuming place it was in 2015 because Instagram and TikTok and other things have taken away. What just happened though is the stuff that's coming in on the supply has gone down so much on the ad side that the organic Facebook fan page content is exploding. I couldn't give a bigger piece of advice than telling all of you, especially some of the young dogs in here who never even did Facebook. They started with Instagram, to get very serious about Facebook fan pages. And for this industry, the age demo that's on there, it's really important. I would get your Facebook fan page game up, number 1. Number 2, YouTube Shorts. I don't know if this has hit your radar yet. How many people here, and don't lie, because I'll look it up and then call you out and destroy your brand. Raise your hand if you're actively making content for YouTube Shorts. Raise your hand. Very solid. But this is great. Look what just happened. A, that's solid. Great stuff. Like, this is fairly early, last 6 months, 9 months. But look, this is a pretty legit crowd. We got some hands up, but 95%, 98% did not. Huge opportunity. YouTube Shorts is TikTok, except it's YouTube, which means it's searchable. YouTube, if you don't know, is the second biggest search engine in the world. Google is number 1, YouTube is number 2. For some of you that have dyslexic tendencies like I do, you know why, because we don't read well, and so we need to listen or watch to learn. So if you make YouTube Shorts that are titled very smartly, that are localized to your business, or you could do some real damage, because unlike a YouTube video that if everybody here posted for the first time would get 7 views, like TikTok, your first YouTube short might get 100,000 views. It is pure virality, it's huge, it's double huge. Like, as much as the next thing that's gonna come out of my mouth is TikTok and I want you to do it, I know for a lot of you, YouTube's gonna work even better because of the search component that is not the same dynamic that happens in TikTok. So the fact that, for me, if I have your job, and I know the mortgage, real estate, I know the room, the fact that I would spend my time on Facebook fan page first, YouTube Short second, TikTok third, is a profound shift in a room full of people that have Instagram first. And I know that people are feeling their Instagram numbers stalling and declining because it's macro. It's declining because the supply and demand curve is off. The supply's high. The demand, everybody under 30 went to TikTok. That's the game, forever. So, in very simplest terms, the number one thing I know that will work for this audience is having a foundation of 2 core things. Always following the underpriced attention, not the mature attention. And when I tell you everybody focuses on the mature attention, because it's easy, it's what you're stuck in, Instagram. That, along with what are we gonna do about a sustained content model? I think it's an interview show. I will always say this to this industry. In an industry that does their business locally, standing up an interview show that interviews people locally and then chopping that up will work. If you interview the principal of the high school and do the right titling on a YouTube short, do you know how many people decide where they want to buy a home based on the education framework? Enough. A lot. Enough that if they watch the interview of the principal that they're trying to decide if they're gonna go into this town is being interviewed by you and you happen to be selling homes, that's called business. Interview shows are easy because you just have to do a little prep, and if you're like me, you do no prep and you just ask generic questions and you roll with it. Hey principal, how's it going? I really need to figure out some sentence in this room that unlocks you to realize 10, 12 pieces of content a day is the only answer to the thing you're thinking about. That's it, it's where we're at. Attention and content and information is the only game. And other things have gotten mature. When I was doing SEO and SEM in 1999, that was underpriced attention. How many people here have been doing SEM for their business for over 15 years? Raise your hand, anybody? Right, just a couple. Some of you remember how good of a deal that was? The stuff that you used to pay 48 cents for is now $73. Supply and demand. I need you to understand supply and demand of attention, and I need you to understand that it's going to be content for a long time. We are within the half decade of people watching TikTok on television 24 hours a day. Social networks have won the next decade. Brand and business is built in social. You could do other things. You've got tactics that work, I'm sure. Direct mail, outdoor, networking. You know what to do. It's tried and true. To get value out of me being here today, I need this to be the moment you finally said, fuck it. I'm gonna go try it again, or fuck it. I'm gonna try it for the first time, or fuck it. I'm gonna go 4x harder, because it's really this wild moment in time where all the attention's reshifting and the macro industry is going to decrease, which means the winners in this space are gonna win, and the winners, in my opinion, are gonna be the content producers, and you've gotta find your way. And it's tough because the platforms I'm telling you are video-based. You know, everybody loved Instagram because it was easy. I'm gonna take a photo, and it's gonna look real good after I filter the fuck out of myself. And then I'm gonna write a couple sentences, and it's gonna be super cool. That is not the current marketplace. I know you want it to be, because that's a fuckload easier than what you need to do now. But whether it's a podcast, a local show, one-offs, you're gonna need to figure out what your pillar content is so that you then can cut up and produce. You're also more than welcome if you love the game and you've got the time to produce for it. But I know it's not gonna be sustainable for most of you, which is why I'm pushing this pillar. And I put this out a long time ago, and a lot of people have built businesses in many different industries off of it. But I think if you Google, and maybe somebody here can confirm it right now, but if you put, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk content model 84 pieces, I put that out a long time ago. It's obviously the macros, right? Some of the, you know, details obviously change, but it'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about, of like, you know, make a macro thing, post-produce. Again, so many people here raise their hand following me. It's all I do. It's very obvious to you. You see what I do. I bring up stuff from 9 years ago and then clip me talking about something about like, you just have to put yourself in a position to actually do it. But I'm telling you, and I'll leave with this and we'll go into the chat, it's the answer to the quiz.